Good day and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI tournament. This day is all about the old versus the new, and what better game to start that with is with not something very old, namely Eric Hammer versus Proto Egbert, which is the Protoss reincarnation of course, everyone's favorite Terran with the most updates in the last month. And let's see how it's going to pan out. As the enemy is Eric Hammer, this game might be over relatively quickly, because it's still a deadly piece of machinery, even after it didn't receive as many updates as it could have. There was a time where it would beat Iron Bot and a lot of other bots too, but since then it has fallen a little bit, and mainly because of inactivity, and it wasn't such a... oh dear, the first zealot of Proto Egbert is under attack, and its micro is suboptimal and it will die without landing a single stroke, which will leave Proto Egbert in a little bit of a problem, because the first 6 Zerglings are going to be a little bit of a nuisance if the zealots won't fight. Oh dear. Okay, some work to be done here. I don't know what this is all about, but it's sure to be over. And back to the drawing board. Eric Hammer not even breaking a sweat. 2 creep colonies just for style points at this stage of the game. Some more Zerglings being sent over. The Zealots plain out refuse to lift their powerful arms and strike at the Zealots. Zerglings. Oh, a couple of them are damaged, so perhaps they were attacked, or they did it themselves, but the Zealots could have done a little bit more to prevent what's basically the destruction of their own base. So, oh, there we go. Next up, we've got Matt Mix, Zerg and Terran. Both received updates recently, so let's look at what they are going to do. Matt Mix, of course, and Rekurdiumov's random bot split in 3. And I thought, well, if I could show you the Zerg and Terran at the same time, let's do so with a fast expansion. And then that's 11 hatch, 11 poo. At the other end of the map, we've got this command center, double command center before even a single barracks, and of course going to be supply blocked pretty quickly. But then again, here comes another depot. Wow, that's pretty ballsy. First Zergling making its way out, and that's the 4th command center, and still we've got nothing really. We have a 5th command center, and now finally we'll see the barracks being built. Handful of Zerg units sitting around the main hatchery for reasons. Hydra Den, no lair, so no kind of lurker shenanigans, and Terran is surely not going to get away with this. We've got 50 workers, 5 bases, all complete, 3 bases now for Zerg, and only 1 barracks with an army supply of 3. Good thing that the Zerg is sitting on his hand as well. I don't know why, but this is really strange. Okay, so another barracks about to be built, and the factory as well. Barracks about to be built here as well. Turrets, 2 of them. Oh no, that's going to be a depot. And at this base we are going to see Comsat and a refinery, no kind of protection, and that either, I think that's going to be a factory. Zerg army on the prowl with 14.5 army supply, that's pretty decent. Behind that we've got 26 workers, which is also pretty decent. But the enemy might of Terran is now 76 workers and a minimal army supply. Contingent of only 9, but that's sure to be increasing shortly, as there is a lot of money in the bank. Production buildings all over the place, and the Zerg army still sitting back, but started the 4th base where it's going to morph a lair as well. And now with 30 workers, not in too shabby a position, but it would be infinitely better if... oh, that's an interesting place to stim. Oh, there was a Zergling. So, Zerg camping the middle of the map, eating 2 Marines and a Wraith. Oh, that's always good to do. And now going to hit the natural, looks like. But there is quite a bit of Marine and Medic and even some Firebat, so they better be quick in and out or they're going to suffer horribly. And the main Zerg body is going to stand around the middle of the map, so that's not going to work either. Meanwhile, you see the Zerg army falling behind. We've got 16 army supply, the Hydras are on the run. And Terran has gotten away with this unorthodox 5 bases, production buildings all over the place, 75, 6 workers. And let's look at the upgrades. Wow, all kinds of upgrades. Now, Zerg's got some upgrades as well, but hasn't got an army. And Terran, meanwhile, has got an army of 70 almost. And as a Zerg, you'd better do something about that with lurkers or any kind of different tech. But we also, oh dear, that's not going to do it surely. A couple of defensive buildings here and there, but Terran has now got an army of about 75, and with all these Marines and medics supported by a slight infantry corps, and a Wraith is going to march straight into whatever Zerg base it chooses, and it's going to roll that despite there being a Sunken and a Spore in any of them. So there you go, Sunken doing some work on the medics, that's always good. Wraith being taken down by a single Hydra, and then the Terran army is sort of messed up. Oh, there were some units over there, but the drones can't get out. It's a butchery, and that butchery is called Mad Mix, with a very, very macro-heavy build, if I may say so. Wow, this is really something. So many production buildings. And that's the physics labs, so might even see some battle cruisers, but I doubt it will be before this game is over, because there is now a 90 supply Terran army. Oh, it's suffering some slight losses because it's not really keeping its heads down. Oh dear, dear, 2 Sunkens doing so much damage, but there is the medic and there is the rest of the infantry corps, and that is going to be short work of the main base. Wow. Drones won't get out alive. No, even that one won't, and that's very unfortunate if you were that drone. Zerg now under a lot of fire, and Terran operating in different stages. That's very good to see, so it can handle multiple squads. These 2 Sunkens do what they can, but versus this lot of bio, even with a Matrix vessel, oh well, that's pretty pro. 3 vessels, let's look at the composition. 6 vessels, a lot of spider mines, a little bit of bio, lots of bio, 1 Valkyrie, and Zerg, well, this says it all. It's 3 larvae, 1 overlord, 3 overlords, whatever. And no money in the bank, so there it goes, and that was the game. So let's hop into the next one. It looks like Mad Mix Terran is, well, if you let it go on for a while, is pretty decent, and Zerg can still use some work. Now, Purple Wave also received an update, which will be interesting because it's one of the top Protoss, if not the top Protoss. So what? I might not speculate about that, but I can surely show you what it is. Leaderboard looks like this at the moment. We've got Crazio with a neat 2400 ELO points. Behind that, Ironbot and TSC Mu. TSC Mu Terran can beat Crazio, or does beat Crazio pretty reliably, so that's where the ELO points come from. But then Reaver, without an update in quite a while. Killerbot, Cherry Pie, Microwave, and that's a lot of Zerg action. Alien, Eric Hammer, Steam Hammer, and then it's Egbert and basically the rest of the pack. And Purple Wave finding itself here as well. Mainly that might be issues with the big Terrans and of course the big Zerg as well, but look at that, we've got 1, 2, 3 Terrans, then the Reaver, and then a whole pack of Zerg, and then the first other Protoss. So Reaver pretty decent, and Purple Wave finding itself, well, not at the bottom, but it appears to be waiting for a way to deal with the big guns, with the siege tanks of Terran and the slow turtling styles that the major Terrans use. And of course, lurking between major Terrans and the good Zerg are all kinds of Protoss which can do a deadly snipe or have some decent play of their own. There's Cherry Pie, and well, Reavers not to be trifled with either. And then you've got all these pretty good Zergs which are so very deadly. So let's see what this update has brought Purple Wave. I think it's going to take a lot of firepower to take down the big Terrans. Banana Brains is one of the new Protoss which can be pretty aggressive. We'll show you that later on as well. Maybe interesting, and perhaps Banana Brain with the development power of, well, rather a lot of updates in the last couple of days can do something about that. Meanwhile, we've got 3 Zealots sitting back in the mineral line, and now the Zerglings come in, so the Zealots will have something to fight for. The first one sticks its neck in a little bit too deeply, but in a nice position between that building, that warping in of the, I think it's Gateway and the pylon. That was a pretty good position, and now it's 12 versus 6 army supply. These Zerglings can be pretty good, but they are few and not really well upgraded, as you can see. Goon range is finishing up. Oh, and that is pretty ballsy. Poor scouting probe snuffs it, and another one's being sent over immediately. And we'll suffer the same fate, and will we have another one? Yes, we will have another one, so that's a slight decision making, throwing away 3-4 probes for nothing. That's not really how it's done. Of course you'd be anxious to get out on the map, but first let your army chase these lings away. That's the 5th probe already. Wow, that's got to hurt. And meanwhile Alien is not really breaking a sweat, just taking bases, upgrading its small Zerg force every once in a while, and sending drones all over the place. It's got 31 drones versus only 19 probes, and we saw what happened to a couple of them. And finally Purple Wave has stopped sending probes out on the map to be killed by this small Zergling encampment over here. Some Hydras are joining the fun, and Purple Wave had better be damn careful, because 1 base versus 4. Oh, 4th is actually ready already. Wow, that's nicely played by Alien. Just light contain, and another probe lost. Wow, Purple Wave dropping the ball here, and this army is pretty strong. It's more than double the army supply of Zerg, but if you're sitting back in your base, not contesting the map, not killing enemy units, you are going to suffer horribly. And now would be a very good time to take a natural, but only 19 workers. This Nexus had better make some. And oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. The army is out. Oh, and that is a... Wow, that was an E-hand timing of warping in goons, if there ever was one. Now the Zerg army will have to fight, because it's now back to the ramparts of the natural. There are 2 Sunkens over there, but you can see what a well-disciplined Protoss army with some decent micro can do. First Sunken is going to fall, a little bit of backstabbing going on, not really working. And all the links which are being sent out are out microed, but the defenses have been broken. The goons were out too far, and without the natural, Purple Wave is going to suffer horribly. That's not really as tight and clean a play as you would need to face a good opponent like Alien. Alien, meanwhile, hasn't got the greatest army either. It's only 10 army supply. And let's look at what it's building. It is building a lot of mutas, a greater spire, lots of drones. Neglecting the fact for the time being that it's hardly got any army at all. This lurker is not really in a fortuitous position, but as the main army is getting back to base, I think Zerg with a couple of lurkers may still hold out, as there is no mobile detection. Natural taken finally for Purple Wave, but it's going to take a while still. Meanwhile, lurkers are out on the map, and the Protoss army can't really do anything about that. It can impede the march of the lurkers, or it can try to snipe this base over here, but with a couple of hatcheries, it will only be a matter of minutes before Alien is going to explode all over the map. With this great economy, it's got 49 workers versus only 21 of Protoss, and if you've only got 21, there is really no reason to do a worker transfer. But with the natural up, Protoss looks to be in an okay position. The defenders should be able to hold on versus this incursion of relatively few Zerg units. But these lings are so good. Oh wow, look at them go. And there is just not enough production. The natural is overrun. If this Nexus falls, the main is so low, and the expeditionary force is having to come back to save the day. Major damage to the Nexus, and still 1 muta in the middle of the base, but it's going to be chased out by these goons. Now, the problem is, oh god, here is the problem, that Protoss has got no map control whatsoever. The army supply differential is going to be in favor of Zerg, and also there are these lurkers, which Protoss at the moment cannot stop at all. Oh, there is finally a Robo Bay, so there may be lurkers, but the Nexus is under attack, invested by lurkers. Here come the observers, and 1 falls, but the lurker threat is clear. The Nexus in the natural still standing. But Alien is now well in control of this map. It's got 75 workers. Can you say hello? It's got all kinds of tech. It's got very many production buildings. And it's got these observers locked in tight. Protoss with only 10 army supply. Well, Zerg has only got 25. But is momentarily in the natural, taking down the Nexus. There goes the Nexus. The main is nearly out for Purple Wave. And Purple Wave, with a very loose build order, can't really stop the tide. And it's very lucky that Zerg isn't doing more than it is, because it could also build a wave of 50 Zerglings and then just walk into the main base. But there are Ultras, there are Lurkers, there are Zerglings and Hydras, and Purple Wave has got some work to do, because that's a very good game by Alien, but also very slow. Purple Wave a little bit passive in the early game, and that's going to cost it. So a new bot with an update called Alice. And if you ask yourself, who is Alice? Well, Alice, my dear, where are you? Alice is a... what does it say? Fixed many bugs, new tactics, and trained against other bots. So that was really what made me curious as to what it can do now. Not doing a full pool, which is great. It's going for 9 workers, gas trick for 1 extra supply, and then it appears to be saving for a hatchery, barracks first at the end of Mericadic, and then a depot. So this will supply block it for a little bit, and it can't build another drone nor a marine, so that is not the perfect build order either. That is hatchery and then a spawning pool at 12. Wow. That's a very interesting build order. Lots of workers. And what are these workers doing? We've now got 2 hatcheries and 1 marine, and the marine is immediately kissed to death by these drones. The next marine is going to suffer the same fate, and the third is going to make its way out of there. Handful of marines at the main command center for Mericadic. Lots of zerglings. Will we have? No, we haven't got gas, so that's not really going to work, is it? Alice with the natural hatchery. I think that's a good idea. Another drone was sent over for reasons, but it couldn't, of course, build another hatchery there. And I think with 2 hatches you haven't got, well, you haven't got the best build order, but you surely haven't got the worst either. And building some more tech. Oh wow, that's a lot of tech. And then sitting around in your main base, microing your overlords for reasons. I'd say that's pretty decent. These could be a little bit more to the front, protecting the first mineral patches, especially from ranged units. But so far so good. It's got 21 workers, decent saturations, mining gas, building units. 3rd hatchery in the main, building more workers. The big problem is though that there is a large contingent of M&M coming in, and now the Zerglings are fighting in tandem with the Zerglings, but it's not really going to work. And now it's 2 Sunkens with the drones coming off the line. The drones should be fighting. If they do not fight, there is only 1 Sunken left, and I think they are just able to manage it with the Hydra coming out right in the nick of time. The damage is done though, so it's only, oh well, it's only not so many workers lost, 29 workers. And I think that Alice can still be part of this game for a little bit longer. Mericadic though, with a couple of turrets and its army production, this nice large hybrid army thing it can do is really coming into its own. Lots of workers, that's 44 workers on only 2 bases. And let's have a look. Still another drone being produced. Furthermore, lots of hydras and lots of upgrades as well, that's good. But Mericadic will be bringing siege tanks to the show next time round, probably. So that may well be, well, handy to have some well upgraded hydras. Now the hydras are marching on, and let's see, they can take down these mines pretty quickly. And this Terran army is, if they see that, they should run like hell. Unfortunately, they're just going to say gung-ho and let's kill 2 fire bats. Oh, that's 2 fire bats. 3 fire bats and a medic, 4 fire bats and a medic, and a marine, and another fire bat. So far, the Hydra's doing pretty well. Unfortunately, in the end, they're all going to die. They will stop this small Terran army, but as there is still 1 medic, they can't really kill any units, and that's very unfortunate. Nice engagement on the high ground. That was not intentional, but it did the Zerg a lot of good. And Alice, what are you going to do now? Building more buildings. Let's have a small peek at what that is. It's another hatchery, and that's a 2-base play, and I don't really think that will be enough to stop Mericadic. Marek will also be pushing upgrades, and now fighting from the low ground, sniping the medic first. I think that's a good decision. Hyras can be pretty vicious, especially in larger packs. Now cutting off the retreating marines and finding an entirely undefended science facility. There are some tanks now, but there are a lot of Zerg units out on the field already. Although a little bit down in army supply. Oh, there goes that medic again with the M&M. That is so very powerful. And the suppressing fire of this tank duo from the rear. They don't like it up, as they say. So, Alice, what are you going to do? Building another hatchery? I don't really think that's going to be the answer. You need more bases. You've got the workers, you could take 2 more bases, you could sustain this fight. And wow, this fight is going pretty well actually. Merikadic is not keeping its units in tight formation, and these waves of Alizal were really making dents in the Terran defenses. Terran now down to 8 army supply. What the hell is it doing? Tank now finally sieging, but there are no supporting units, and it needs a couple of more. Needs a couple of shots to deal with these Hydras. The tank falls. There is 1 medic, 1 vulture, 1 more medic coming off the line, and Zerg, wow, building another army. These small armies of about 30 army supply, but they are expertly microed. And look at all the upgrades they've got, and they are going to break Merikadic. While Merikadic being a little bit careless with the forces out in the field. Alice not taking a natural or a third, I meant to say. Meanwhile, lots of overlords, and the army supply is ever increasing. Now making its way up across the ramp. The SCVs are coming off the line, but are not in a position to contest this Zerg incursion. Taking their sweet time to move their way up to the ramp, with all the add-ons being destroyed as well. But all in all, that's a pretty decent victory versus Merikadic, which is not the worst Terran you could face. And I especially like these small waves of 30-ish Zerg units doing battle, so that's the GG. Next game up, it's Sparks versus Lucas Moravec. Lucas is pushing upgrades as hard as ever. The question is, will he be able in the end to make that big leap where it can, where the bot can contend with all these major Terrans and the good Zergs? And I thought, well, let's have a very decent Terran. Sparks. Nice wall, 2 Marines, Scout flipping out, another Scout flipping out, so they're both really balanced in that regard. And Forge Fast Expand with a, oh, that's a very decent SimCity by Lucas Moravec. That's pretty well done. Will we see a worker transfer? No, we won't. 21 workers all, and no army supply yet. And I think that's a good decision, because if you've got that Scout out there, you can see what the enemy's doing. Sparks, meanwhile, building Marines, building another barracks. It's got the academy and going for another barracks. That's pretty decent. The Zealots are making their way through the depots. And the Marines are really lackluster in their defense, but in the end they still can beat back the Zealots, which are flipping out major. Wow, that's really interesting. Now Lucas going for a robo support bay, which will lead to the conclusion that we are going to see Reaver soon. Might just as well. We'll have a Corsair or a Scout, all kinds of upgrades, but the army supply for Lucas is very low. That's a shuttle, oh dear, is going to hit the rear, I think, with something. Meanwhile, the natural choke is completely undefended, and even though Sparks only got 16 army supply, it is Marines and Medics, and it's a good thing that this is a Reaver, and the cannon is going to kill 1, 2, probes are coming off the line, the Marines are having some issues with the cannons, the probes are being evacuated. Where is that shuttle going? The shuttle is over here. I don't know why. There is a Corsair, and the logic dictating the movements of this shuttle is pretty lackluster, it seems. Is there a Reaver in there as well? That's the question. 1 Reaver over there, and I think the shuttle is going to make the pickup. Yep, there it goes. So now we've got a Reaver and a shuttle, and 2 Zealots and a probe and 1 cannon defending the natural. That's pretty decent. Sparks being in an okay position with the Corsair out on the map. Lots of bio. Have we got upgrades yet? We'll have upgrades as well. Academy upgrades will be there as well. Shuttle speed, +1 air attack, +1 weapons, and stim for Terran. That's a really wacky build order. This shuttle is, I don't know what it's doing. It's sort of stuck over the ridge. And the Marines don't really dare attack the cannon. So we've got a bit of a, ooh, wacky stalemate. This Reaver is really going to drop the hammer on these Marines. Got to be careful though with the shuttle, that is not going to be caught out of position. Corsair is doing what it can, but as there are no Terran air units, it's going to be a boring match for it, so to speak. Oh, and now we've got 3 shuttles with Reavers. And this Bioball had better beware. Oh dear, that's going to be pretty clumsy. I can keep an eye on two of them, but the last one I can't really follow. So I'll have to split my attention between both of them. The main army, though, is apparently where it's going to hurt most. A couple of zealots flipping out on the ramp. That's another... oh dear. So there we go, from the top, from the bottom. This bio ball is going to be hunted. And if it's going to be hunted, it's going to suffer, because those scarabs versus bio are so painful, and that's generally why Terran isn't really keen on playing bio versus Protoss. Building placement outside of the natural choke. Okay. This shuttle, has it got a reefer at all? I don't know. It's not dropping anything, and it's taking some damage from the Marines for reasons unknown to me. Oh dear, and that main army is not really getting up to speed because it gets hit by scarabs every once in a while. Protoss slowly but surely getting more army together. The problem is, though... oh, that was a nasty shot, and another one. No, the goons can't handle this bio ball, but with the shuttles in the back and the zealots buffering damage, that's really going to be very ugly. And another shot, only one Marine, but you can see how everything's getting very low, and then the zealots wade in. Oh, surely not, that would have been cruel if that scarab would have found its way from here to there and then killed some stuff. Anyways. Third base for Sparks, third base for Lucas Moravec. Lucas doing okay with the shuttles, but they aren't the most effective. They are not harassing the workers as they could. Oh dear, so much damage with the scarabs and these Marines, oh god. I think the build order is excellent versus a bio-Terran, but then again you've got to fight a lot harder, and the gateway units are all getting chewed to pieces, and then the shuttles back off too far. Again, then the probes are coming off the line and they're going to be butchered, but then left alone again by the Marines. These shuttles could be a little bit deadlier, but it's good to have as a mechanic so you can develop that. And Lucas is showing what he's doing with all these upgrades. He is improving the play, but I'm still waiting for him to bring it all together and to upgrade the decision making, where to work its magic. And there is so much damage in these three shuttles, but they are not really doing anything at all. They are oh, well, that was a cruel shot. Double scarab on 4 medics and killed them instantly. Now these shuttles, though, really back and forth, as if they were muters, but they aren't muters. And one round the back could clean up this. Oh, here we go. But no Reaver being dropped. The Corsair, no, nothing. And the ground army of Protoss is really rather loose, and all the units can be attacked one at a time by these Marines with the medics. Now, though, the Reavers are on the advance with a couple of goons for support, and basically that's 3 Reavers. So you're going to need an awful lot of bio to stop and fight 3 Reavers. Now with the Dark Templar and all, Templar going after the medics, and without medics fighting Reavers and Dark Templars, that's a very hard lot for these Marines. You can see this one medic has got no energy left. All the Marines are damaged, and every shot is going to hurt like hell. Now, these bases are still keeping Sparks in the game. Main is getting low. Oh, must have missed something here. Finally some harassment by the Reavers over there. And the probes are going to take down this command center and all. Now, we've got 3 Reavers in the main, we've got a couple here, and a Dark Templar, oh god, all the medics are too far in the rear, and Lucas is all over the place with these. I can't have missed them for long, but if you let 3 Reavers with shuttles loose in the main base, they are going to do such a tremendous amount of damage, it's out of this world. Sparks under a lot of pressure, Lucas taking more bases. That's not a safe zone for Terran construction, I can say. And now we've got 4. Wow, we've got 5 shuttles with Reavers over here. We've got one over there. Yeah, the nice storm, but it's not going to hit anything because everything that was there is dead already. Now the goons can slowly stroll up the ramp in the main base, and all the buildings are slowly but surely demolished by the Reavers. That is how you can play Reaver. They are not as acute as someone else's Reavers, but they are there, and as a strategy I think that's very impressive. Sparks is trying to scramble, but with all the scouting that Lucas has got, there is nowhere left to hide. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's a 4 group of Reavers, and they can take down stuff so quickly. They're a bit wonky and flying out all over the map for reasons best known to Lucas. Lots of High Templar. Oh, and I just want to, as Lucas is approaching the max, I want to have a small peek at the army composition. Oh god, look at that. It's a good thing they're not playing the Rite of the Valkyries. Army composition is 4 Dark Templar, 1 Zealot, 10 Goons, 12 High Templar, 7 Shuttles, 8 Reavers, 4 Observers, and a lot of Scarabs. That's pretty well done. That's a GG. Lucas taking a good victory versus Sparks. Next game up is going to be Mad Mix Protoss, which we missed last game. We saw Zerg versus Terran, where Zerg had that really incredibly greedy 5 command center before a single Marine build, and then Zerg just couldn't get the stuff anymore. When Terran hit 75 workers and produced units like a madman, hence the name Mad Mix, I suppose. And Zerg is going for 2 Sunkens. That's pretty defensive, I would say. And another hatchery, and that's going to be a Hydra Den. So that's going to be one kind of dedicated 1 base play. At the Protoss end of things, we've got 3 cannons, 1 Zealot, and some tech behind that. Oh, and the gas steel, that's always pretty nice. Because as a Protoss, you've just got to recuperate, and if you haven't got any coding for that, it's going to hurt a little bit. And now the Hydras are in there. This is 1 base Hydra, what the hell am I seeing? The cannons are too far in the rear, and the gateway forces are not... oh, well, they are enough, surely they are enough. Together with the cannons, they can do quite a bit. A couple of Goons die, Zealot dies, but the Hydras aren't... really, they should just be picking off the Forge, and some Workers, the Nexus, things like that, and then build a expansion, but none of that is happening at the moment. You've got this 1 base, 2 hatchery build, and the Hydras are now out microing Zealots, which is good, but they sort of forget the 3rd base and now are going after the Goons and after, well, not after the probes. Between the probes and the cannons, lots and lots of Hydras die, and Mad Mix Protoss is okay. It's got a 2 base, nearly 3 base up and running. It's got a pretty decent army, and with those Zergs got the map and the mobility. It's still... oh, well, the natural just finished up, but there are really not enough workers. It's 20 versus 50 workers, 1 versus 3 base, and then I don't really care how good your Hydras are fighting. Have they got any upgrades at all? Yep, they've got all upgrades, +1 weapons, or Hydra damage is finishing as well. And you can throw away a couple of... oh, that was pretty lackluster. You can't do that too often. And now the Zealots with the Goons are fighting. A couple of Hydras are dying. Protoss with the superior economy, it's 60 versus 23, 4 workers. Finally, the natural is somewhat operational. We've got the lair. Will we have lurkers soon too? I better hope so, because Protoss is going to run out of control, absolutely wild. 4th base already being warped in. Only a slight snag is that the army isn't really willing to fight. Now the probes are fleeing, and the Goons and the Zealots are fighting, but these Hydras are just better fighters. These are such cowards. Would Mad Mix be French, I wonder? No, that's a stale joke, sorry. And of course, one of the better bots we've got at the moment, Iron, is French, so that theory of the French not really wanting to fight doesn't really go for brutal AI. The cannon, though, is going to fall. The Hydras... oh, wow, and what is this? This is going to be a well-defended Nexus. I still think the Protoss might hold, but Zerg is slowly catching up in workers. We've got 28, 29, handful of army supply, but then in the end you've got to fight, and these Zealots are not going to do anything at all versus these Hydras. These Hydras are beastly. +2 is started as well, and of course versus cannons they've got a bit of an issue because they're outranged and outgunned. Got a Dark Templar coming up, and now Protoss can sort of stabilize because it's got so many workers working for it, and that will mean that it can produce lots of units. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gates, 7 gates, and there will be more soon as well. So the Zerg army is 14. Killing a lot of free units though. That's not really how Protoss would have liked it to go. This Dark Templar can't even touch a single drone. That's very fortunate. Because if it would have reached the main base, there is nothing there to stop it. All these drones could be in grave peril. Zerg is going for another wave, and it's the Hydras again. Madnix should really consider doing something with Storm, or just have its army fight better. 4th Nexus up though, 5th already started. Macro-wise, Protoss playing impeccably, but it's so bad at fighting that these Hydras can really get away with it. Just being about half the army supply and less than half the army value. That said, these Dark Templars are not doing anything at all. We've got this Overlord, although it's getting a bit low. But things like this is just a goon and a zealot lost for nothing. And now the Hydras are coming. Oh, that was a nice pincer movement by the Protoss. And Protoss now doubling the army supply. What can it do though? Zerg with the 3rd base, main getting low. Zer not really all that intent on really playing the big macro game, but if you've got Hydra micro like that, why bother? But Zer, Protoss getting the upgrade as well. Unfortunately, it's running away all the time without doing any damage. 2 Dark Templar and a Goon lost for no reason. Another Goon, and Protoss at the moment is trading units 5 to 1. And that is what Zealot, Goon and Dark Templar. Only if it commits to a fight, it can pin the Zerg to the wall. But then you can see this Hydra ball is growing and growing. And now it's losing a big battle. That's good for Protoss, but then you should pursue, just kill them, just drive them back to the wall, butcher them, and GG. Now a nice round with a Dark Templar and a couple of Zealots, and the main army coming in from the left. Zerg is on the run. It's a complete rout. Protoss now with 90 versus 10 army supply. 5th base operational. All kinds of buildings in the middle of the map. Zerg, what can it do at this point? It's got an army of 6, and the enemy has got 100. So at this point, it doesn't really matter how many Zealots you do throw away. It's 5 versus 3 bases, well 4 versus 2 really, because both mains are out. And as there are no lurkers, there is no lurker upgrade, Zer is going to face the wrath of Protoss, because you can see how many units are coming up. That's really something out of control of Zerg at this point. And although a couple of Templar and a Goon maybe lost here and there, 2 Sunkens and a handful of Hydras are all what remains, and still the force of about 100 army supply is pushing into the natural. There is 1 Sunken, a couple of Hydras still. The Hydras are doing what they can, but here come all the Zealots, and there is not enough firepower in the world, or at least in this Zerg's world, to stop that. The natural is falling, the main is down already, or down is out. And the 3rd is under attack as well. Madnix with the complete rout, 73 workers, lots of army, going to do this the hard way. Lost a lot of units, but in the end the macro was just too good. And this Zerg expansion, what can it do? It hasn't got any money left. And Protoss taking just another base for good measure. A couple of Overlords being killed. I do believe this game is over. We'll hop into the next one, which is going to be Martin Royakas or Literbot versus Banana Brain. And Banana Brain, well, could do with an introduction. Unfortunately, I do not know very much about it. Literbot going to be a very impressive Terran. And Martin has been working hard on his research, neglecting his bot somewhat. That's unfortunate. Would like to see him work on that again, because he is such, well, aside from being a good researcher, he's also a very decent coder. And with a couple of upgrades, Literbot could be good again in this ever-increasing and growing field of brute war AI. The scouting SUV is such a wonder to me that this still works in 2018, that no one ever thinks of cutting it off or doing something like that, or it's just not worth anyone's time. But if someone would just write a routine to stop that, everyone could copy it and then it would be over. And that's something which is which could happen a lot more, that you could reuse routines of the competition or of your co-brute war AI enthusiasts, because everyone's reinventing wheels all over the place and having incompatible frameworks. That's Well, it's a big pity because it could be so much better. You can see all the time when an author gets good. Take Litterbot for an example. We've been working on it for years, then the time runs out to work on his bot, and then it gets sort of neglected and no one does anything with all the hard work that he's put in, and that's such a damn shame. Now with 5 tanks, 4 tanks in the high ground, and a handful of bio with 5 tanks now and a couple of vultures. That wasn't the cleverest attack by Banana Brain. Banana Brain, what's it doing? It's building probes still, a lot of probes. 45, still building gateways, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it will be the 6th. We got some upgrades already. And a small army. Could do with a 3rd base, because if you keep in touch with this this big Terran army, you'd see it sitting around here. And I'm sure there would have been time to build a 3rd. Here comes the next army. It's pretty small. Litterbot's army is bigger. It's much better, and once these tanks start blasting, these goons are only going to be soup. And then instead of 60 versus 40, you end up with 50 versus, well, soup. And then you will have to rebuild your entire army, and you would have liked to have a 3rd. Unfortunately, Banana Brain is not doing that. It's just sitting back on 2 bases, trying to macro up again. And once this Terran Death Ball starts rolling, I fear there is not going to be enough to stop it. You can see the supplies are running out. Well, the disparity is increasing, what I was meaning to say. And Litterbot, mulling about with this army for, I don't know why, is okay. Now Banana Brain going to take an angle, but here comes the Terran Death Push. And Banana Brain is trying to flank it, but there is just so many Terran at this point, it doesn't really matter. There are tanks dispersed all over the path of the attack, bio groups mopping up straggling goons, and oh well, there was a storm, but it wasn't really good enough. And now with the tanks and the bio, we've got an army supply of 75 versus 15, and then the going gets pretty rough for these goons. The probes are coming over to the 3rd. I doubt a single one will make it out of them. There are fire bats there with stim and medics, and if that fails, there will be tanks behind that. The main is out for Protoss. Litterbot taking a 3rd, main getting low as well. But you can see how this big push can do wonders. Well, that was one storm, but you need at least a couple, because these Marines will dodge it, and then your your energy-less High Templar will be EMP'd as well. Very unfortunate, this one hasn't got the energy yet and will soon be dead. Litterbot still very good. Banana Brain looking okay, but could be a little bit better. More aggressive in the macro department, and decision making wise could be better as well. Litterbot just for BM, EMPing the Templar, which was just built and released from its gateway. The tanks in the rear and the bio in the front make this a very short game for Litterbot. Banana Brain not a threat yet, but with all the upgrades it's pushing, its author is pushing, it might be pretty decent anytime soon. Next game up, because I always like to talk about the games which are happening, and I restricted myself to about 15... No, I thought I had 12 replays, and I thought, well, if I do 12 it can't be too long. But then you get the recommendations as well, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, what the hell is this? Okay, well that's a 4-pool, handful of Zerglings running wild, not finding the enemy here, then running the wrong way, and these are still going to the wrong base. And will be going to the other wrong base again. Oh, that's very interesting. SCV being tagged, found, and now the Zerglings are in there. Sparks is not defending at all. These Marines are being... What are they doing? Only now are they fighting to protect the workers, but you are also going to need the barracks and the other things and the bunker to sit in to stop and fight the Zerglings. So is this 4-pool by this new bot called Middle School Strats actually working versus Sparks? And the answer to that appears to be yes, it is. God knows why. Well, I know why, because these Marines don't fight. The bunker will be up shortly, and now the Marines will be in there. Oh, and will Spark have... Oh god, no, seriously, no. Lost the entire base, but Zerg can't really transition out of it. 3 workers, 2 spawning pools, why not? And Sparks has got 150 minerals, still 3 SCVs working, going for another barracks, and this SCV is being very brave but also very silly. And Sparks really ought to build a couple of workers. Yeah, there is one. This SCV over here got killed. And still going to mine gas. It's got through 250 gas. Nothing to build gas. Should repair the bunker because it doesn't. Oh, we're now throwing away another SCV. Oh god, this is so painful to watch. But I think in the end, with 4 SCVs mining, might build a couple of Marines. The Marines are not the cleverest. And that's going to be another bunker. No, it's going to be a depot. But that's going to contribute to the SimCity of Terran. So that will be okay. You should repair that bunker. Eventually it's going to you're going to need it. But with army production resumed and 4 pools still being carried out by middle school strategies, I think that Sparks will be okay, especially if it's going to get a couple of medics. Turrets also very handy versus 4 pool. Nice concave, and yeah, with the medic, this game is officially over. The war train making its way over to the enemy. Middle school strategies, back to the drawing board. All the drones die, and now all the buildings die as well. That's the GG. Hop into the next game, which will be Alice versus Mad Mix Zerg. Alice, of course, did that incredibly interesting 2-base strategy, and Mad Mix Zerg fell to the Terran. So with 2 lower grade Zergs, as yet, they are going to be upgraded, I'm sure, and become increasingly good. But for the time being, they are not really at the top of the list yet. We are seeing a large army by Mad Mix Zerg chasing one drone, one Zergling. And the Zergling army of Alice is sitting back at home. It's about equal right now, some Zerglings here as well. Might get away without a sunken, but if for my own sake I would build one, and that's a very decent place. Could also protect, yeah, well, the second one, they could protect this area over here. 3rd base being started for Mad Mix, and what the Terran was doing with the 75 workers and 5 base before the first Marine came off the line. The Zerg appears to be doing as well. And here goes another drone. I don't know what it's going to do, or perhaps it's just a worker transfer. No, that's an Overlord. But Mad Mix Zerg with only 10 army supply, and that's all in Zerglings, going to find the enemy. And Alice with 25 workers. Oh dear, how's this going to pan out? Alice is... oh well, there is more army over there. The fight is on, and the Sunkens are out of range, so these Zerglings of Mad Mix Zerg are going to do quite well. The Hydras should be retreating. Unfortunately for them, they do not, and they get gobbled up by the brown Zerglings. Now, 4th base nearly done for Mad Mix. Worker counts are equal, so that really doesn't pose too much of a threat to Alice. Although the saturation at the main is a bit high and at the natural is a bit low. So all in all, I think that Mad Mix is going to have the better economy. But it's not too bad, and if you have these 2 Sunkens, you can be pretty well off. And let's see how things are going to pan out. Mad Mix at 50 army supply, not really building too many more workers. Alice is being hindered by this Sunken. The drones can't really pass through it, so that will impede the economy even more. That's the 5th base by Mad Mix operational. Mad Mix with 36 drones is okay. The Mutas are in the worker lines, and although there are a couple of Hydras, and the Hydras do take down the Mutas, workers are lost. Oh, and the poor Overlord got scourged. The Hydras have got things under control-ish for the time being. Alice still got a decent number of workers. The problem though is that Mad Mix is all over the map, has got this better distribution of workers between bases, and the real problem is going to be when this main base runs out, which is going to take a while still, but oh wow, that's an incredibly powerful Scourge army. I think that all the Overlords are going to suffer horribly. There they come. Let's see how many have we got. We've got 60, so we've got about 9 overlords. And we've got quite a number of hydras as well, and some more in the main if I'm not very much mistaken, so there we go. Here come the mutas and the zerglings. Mutas zergling would be okay versus hydras if the fighting would have been better. And now with this running in, running out, the hydras can really ravage a lot of them. And although a couple of them die, it's now a 23 versus 20 army supply, and Alice is out to get some blood. There are some sunkens all over the place, which is good. But one is too far in the rear, and there is not really anything of an army, and the army that is there is now coming in, fighting hard. The Zerglings are in among the Hydras. Mutas coming over. Oh, and look at the death rain of all these Scourge. I don't know what kind of build order that is, but that must be a lot of Scourge. And keep in mind, although there is a 30 army supply, I think at least half of that is in Scourge at the moment. And you can see how fast they fall to the Hydras without really accomplishing much. This Sunken though doing good work. The Mutas trying to clean up the Hydras. And wow, Mad Mix, what are you doing? that was really the worst army you can imagine. If you look at the production tab, oh finally there are no more Scourge being produced, that's good. But so many Scourge have been produced, sort of losing Mad Mix the game because there was a large-ish batch of Hydras in the natural, and that's a base lost, which is a damn shame. And this base will be under attack as well, but it's got a Spore and a Sunken, so could deal with a couple of Zerglings. That's not really the problem. Shouldn't lose too many workers. The big problem is that the natural is looking like that, the third is looking like that, and still there are Scourge flying all about. I don't know what that's about, and now it's 33 versus 6 army supply. Mad Mix, with not enough hatcheries at this moment, is suffering a little bit, and 2 bases being attacked at once by Alice. Alice, I think, is looking okay. Having 2 control groups, obtaining separate objectives, that's pretty decent. Cleaning the expansions up first and then hitting the main base with about a 50 supply army. A couple of Sunkens on the high ground might be a little bit of a problem, but not if you've got this many Hydraling, and the Hydraling is cutting down this base. Oh god, we've got more Scourge coming up. I really don't know what that's about. And now the entire army is moving back, but no, there it goes again. So yeah, there we go. Alice with better play than Mad Mix Zerg. Next game up is the... Okay, well this broadcast is getting way too long again. Sorry for that. But I just like to blabber on about what I see and think about what I see. I shouldn't do so much thinking, then the talking would be less as well. Lucas versus Tyr Protoss, and Tyr Protoss is of course the macro bot with a couple of cannons behind which to macro. It took that leaf from the Book of Xim by Thomas Weider. If you build quite a number of cannons behind that, you've got a lot of time to do all kinds of crazy stuff. And oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Going to be the 5th cannon, and every time these goons make a small micro error, they're going to get blasted. And oh wow. There had better be a damn good plan behind this, because Tyr Protoss is going to fall behind. The 3rd base is started for Lucas Moravec already, and Lucas is going to build units, but also going to lose units. Oh god, this is so painful to watch. And Tyr Protoss is basically given the game right now. Only 6 zealots, 2 bases, but you can see this is not a proper way to fight at all. I do wonder why you would buzz in and out of these cannons' ranges all the time. That cannot buzz in and out of any kind of range whatsoever. That's not how it's done, and that is... Oh dear, oh dear, these cannons aren't even touched, and these goons are all being thrown away. Meanwhile, we've got Corsairs and Observers all over the place. 4th base for Lucas Moravec. But Lucas, what in the blazes are you doing, man? That's not good. And it's a good thing that this cannon doesn't have a kill counter, I can see, or I'd be laughing my ass off. Behind this, Tyr Protoss is doing a 2-base army, 5th base for Lucas Moravec now. Now tearing down the cannons. And with this army, it had better accomplish something, because Lucas has got the way better economy. It's a good thing its army is running, but it's now got a Reaver, it's got 2 Reavers. And the first batch of Zealots is falling. The first Reaver still standing, the probes are coming for a transfer back. And you can see how fast these... oh, well, finally. Oh, we've got one in a shuttle now. Sorry about the dreadful speed. But you need quite a bit of damage to deal with a... Oh, that's a good storm, though. Unfortunately, it's a little bit late and a little bit not enough, I would say. Third base by Tier Protoss. Tier Protoss with the big army going to do the big damage. And the Shuttle Reaver, though, is being quite a pain. It took one... Oh, that's pretty good. If it can get a couple of these Reavers and they can put out the damage this one's doing, it might still be okay. Big problem is, though, that Tier is reinforcing its army and the main base is under attack. You can rebuild it somewhere else, but it's going to take time, and then the 4th base for Tier will be operational as well. It's going to be rather ugly, and even if the shuttle with the Reaver is doing a lot of damage from the rear, the fact is that there is a 36, 40, let's give it 40, there is a 40 supply army trying to stop an army of 125. The natural is lost, the main is lost. And yeah, that was 1 storm, 2 storms, but then again, versus this big army of Tiers, 140 supply right now. A couple of storms and scarabs are not going to cut it. And although you can sort of disruption web the enemy, yeah, that's just wackiness and not really really helping. But having Corsairs with disruption web might help tremendously. Especially in conjunction with Storm and Reavers, but you need to somehow work it together, and Lucas Moravec's got a lot of good ideas. The bot can do all kinds of amazing things, but it's not really doing them in a logical order or in a logical grouping. And Tier Protoss now with the 153 supply army is running amok. It is, well, there are still the Corsairs, but what can the Corsairs do? This base has been found, and once this 150 supply Moloch is entering the base, it will be over very quickly. Lucas has got a lot of money, isn't really rebuilding at the moment, so yeah, work to be done. 2 Dark Templars which are not attacking, although there is an observer over here. Could have done a lot of damage in the meanwhile, but aren't doing so for reasons. And there goes Last Simulator. That's a good game. Last game up. Old versus new, and some pointers of what to build if you are pretty new. It's Banana Brain versus Andrew Smith, and I thought, well, let's have a look at what the oldest bot from 2013, last update already, for Andrew Smith Skynet, and well, probably today somewhere for Banana Brain. Let's see how it's going to turn out. Scouts are being exchanged, that's nice to see, but doesn't really matter much. 2 gate with gas for Sky, and 2 gate with Cybercore, and also gas for Banana Brain. And Banana Brain dealing with the first incursion of Zealots of Andrew Smith Skynet. Meanwhile going for another gateway and another kind of tech unit. 2 kinds of tech units. That's pretty good. And Skynet really trickling in units 1 at a time. That's not really efficient, especially not with a goon coming up. A couple of goons, and Banana appears to be in a good position worker-wise. They're about dead even. Banana starting another base, the natural, which is okay if you've just defeated a part of the enemy's army and the enemy hasn't got that much army anyway. Skynet regrouping at the main ramp. 5 gateways, Cybercore, 6 gateways soon, but we'll need that extra income, and at the moment the ramp is being blocked by this army, so these drones can't really get down. Unfortunate. Banana Brain with the natural up and running has got, well, a slightly superior army, but not by that much. Invested a little bit in a lot of tech. Oh, and let's look at the fight. You can see the Knights... Oh, sorry. Rewind. Okay, the fight's going to be here. the armies. Look, Sky is a little bit down, and a couple of drone probes are going to be cut, and these goons stick their head in too quickly. So a couple of goons get slaughtered, then the zealots get to grips, but you see already that this nice concave by Andrew Smith is going to take care of a lot of zealots, and then there are only 5 more goons in the rear. So although the zealots will cut down a number of goons, in the end Andrew Smith is going to come out on top. And now the last zealot is dead. It is 5 versus 10, 12 goons. Oh, 3 units chasing a single goon. Even if they win, they will not really accomplish much. And Skynet immediately building the natural once it got out. And that was quite a decisive victory. Sky lost a couple of units here at the choke because it filtered them in one at a time. Banana did well there, but now Banana's sort of on the back foot. It's got a lot of tech. It's got the Citadels, got the Forge Spinning, got the Robo Bay. Upgrade wise, Banana is ahead. Goon range for both players, +1 started. Observer. What the hell is... what am I doing? I don't know. Leg speed done as well. The fact of the matter is though that Banana at this moment is losing units in the middle of the map. You could pick this weakened goon, but Banana is not doing so and is just losing units one at a time, while Sky isn't losing anything at all. And now it's 34 versus 7 army supply, and even though we've got 7 army supply, that's 3 observers already, so that's basically 4 or 6. And they're coming in one at a time, which doesn't really bode well for Banana. So Banana lost 1 battle, now going to lose the natural nexus. Smith is doing okay. A couple of drones are stuck. A couple of reinforcements standing about, don't know why. But that was the natural, and now, although from the high ground, Banana can sort of defend a little bit better and has got the sight on the enemy with the observers, in the end it's just going to lose unit after unit. The mate is getting low. Sky has got the 3rd up and running already. Are these units still stuck? No, they've gotten... no, most have gotten unstuck. 2 cannons. All kinds of tech. So that was a little bit of a too early tech. And now Sky is sitting back, but well, it doesn't really matter because this base is out. And although you've got a High Templar and a Dark Templar and a couple of observers, you haven't got the money to build anything else. These mineral patches are disappearing. Here comes Skynet's force, and Skynet's force is quite formidable. We'll kill it, and that is how you do it. 2013, Andrew Smith Skynet taking game versus Banana Brain. So now coming to the last 2 games of this broadcast. Good heavens, took a while. First of which is Egbert versus Purple. That must be Purple Wave because Xavier, the author of Egbert, sent me this replay. He had been, he said, well, this was from our own testing environment, and I thought it was pretty interesting, so let me send it to you. As usual, he didn't spoiler me. I like to cast these games with a fresh mind. We see the bunker first, where this poor scouting probe can't really get in. Natural being taken by Purple, and then 2 gates with a cyber core. Good decision. Nexus up, a couple of Zetas just for good measure, and Egbert is going for a lot of Marines. Wow, that's 3 flashing barracks already, 1 bunker, a couple of medics, academy upgrading as well. Yeah, Protoss, you can try to enter this base, but that's not really going to work. Now Egbert has got this army of about 30 supply, Marines and medics, pretty powerful, at least until there is going to be a Reaver or a High Templar, otherwise, or a very large number of gateway units. But then again, you are contesting a very large number of Marines and medics as well. Oh dear, but there we go. We've got the Reaver. It's going to crawl, will take a while. Meanwhile, the Terrans are in control of the high ground. Will the natural be safe, or will that be killed as well? The stim goes off, and the Protoss units are suffering. As the Marines are gaining more surface area, they can do such a lot of damage with the stim. Let's look at the other upgrades. +1 not finished for Protoss nor for Terran. And as long as they're coming in single file, Protoss can do a bit of damage, but as soon as the front gets larger and broader, it will be dangerous. There is a Dark Templar coming up, immediately gets scanned and killed. Waiting is for the Reaver. Oh dear, the comsats are out, and there is still a Dark Templar. Now it gets scanned and killed immediately. The Reaver, what can it do? Templar gets scanned, but it runs out of scan range. 1, 2, 3. That's a lot of units killed. Could do with a turret or two. It's got one on the high ground. Really needs one at the low ground as well. This comsat can be repaired, but you need more SCVs to do it. The damage from this one Dark Templar is quite atrocious, at least from the comsat's point of view. And that's one comsat less, so you've got one comsat, one Dark Templar, and no other kind of detection. But the scan goes off, Dark Templar dies, and now it is, oh god, there are lurkers. Lurkers would have been nice for Protoss as well, but we've got 3 Reavers and a High Templar with a little bit of energy. Storm is not yet ready, so that's a slight, what do you call it, snag. But look at these Reavers go, look at that. Every Scarab is going to kill something, and if you are not very unlucky, it's going to kill a lot. 3, oh god, the damage. This one's getting a little bit of heat from the Marines below, and it dies. That's very well done by these Marines, such a lot of Marines. Natural, though, is up. We've got the science facility, which will mean science vessels, probably, if there would have been a control center. Third base up for Protoss, and this will be a precursor to the 4th base. This Reaver, though, is taking a lot of fire from the Marines, and this small group of 3 Marines, 3 medics is doing a lot of damage. Is Storm finally done? Storm is done. We've got an Arbiter. Oh, hello. And that's very interesting by Purple Wave. It's got no army, or the army is not in at the moment. The Dark Templars are buggering off, but the Arbiter is keeping things well under control, while these 3 Marines are still doing a lot of damage. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This one medic, though, is going to snuff it, and then it will be 2 Marines, 3 Marines with only 1 medic, and then the DPS just gets too high for the Protoss army. But the next wave of Marines is already growing, and that is interesting. 3rd base for Egbert, 5th base for Protoss started, and of course, yeah, where I suspected it, the 4th base has been built, is nearing completion as well. No, oh well, there is going to be a little bit of production here at this there's not a main base at this point of the map. And now, yeah, you can try to do that, but that's not really going to work, is it? Terran out of scans, though, so with the Arbiter, I think it can do quite well. Nice storm here and there, but mainly these High Templar just die. It's very hard to use casters efficiently because they need to be in touch with the enemy to cast their spells, but they also need a little bit of distance before they die completely. And now Egbert, oh, braving the storms, braving the Reavers. Oh god, that's such an ugly hit was that with the Reaver. The Reaver doing such a lot of good work. Could kill a couple of these medics. That would be... oh, that was a really ugly shot. Now with 2 Reavers and the High Templar in the rear. The Marines going after the Reaver, but once this Reaver turns and fires, it's going to be run or die. Storm and Reavers. A couple of goons snuff it. The Arbiters had better cloak the army, but you can't really blame them for not doing so, because that's a pretty hard thing to do. The Reavers, though, are really doing a devastating job on these Marines. Egbert, though, has finished the 4th base already. Work is being transferred. Main is out, so is the Protoss main. Now it's a 3 versus 3 base situation with a Protoss with a lot of very high-tech units, with a lot of DPS, area damage and all, and 2 Arbiters. So that's going to be very, very ugly. Terran, though, with a large Marine army. And by large, I really do mean large. Upgrades 3-3 is finishing. You can see these Zealots are having nothing to say, but their job basically is to die and buffer damage before the Reavers get under fire. The Reavers, though, sticking the neck in a little bit too far. And now it's waiting for a good storm. Oh, that was an okay storm, but here, if you cast the... oh yeah, that was an excellent one. That was a mediocre one. but between a couple of storms and Reaver shots, and then the gateway units mop up the rest. But the Reavers are this one Reaver is the real hero of the story. It can do so much damage, and especially versus the medics. The medics have quite a bit of hit points and high armor and all, and being small they don't take full damage from a lot of damage types. But this Reaver is really blasting the hell out of this Marine army, and these poor Arbiters haven't really got the clue yet. They are hovering in and out and about all the time, not really doing much. Oh, the Reaver got killed, and a new one's coming up. Let's look at the macro situation. Egbert taking another base, while Protoss really isn't. And this base, well, the third and fourth and the fifth still got a lot of juice in them. Oh, and this is not the right place to build more production, really isn't. Everything which come out is going to die. Now the Marine front is going to come in, and a nice stasis. Have you ever seen that? And now, oh, there are not enough medics. And the Terran army is really struggling to come together. The Protoss army is so very big, and especially with this group of one medic with about 10 Marines, it's pretty... Oh, now they're getting shifted about, which is nice, because Goon got stuck. And, oh, that was a nice connect with the reinforcing army. Still one Reaver in the rear, but there's such a lot of damage in this. Meanwhile, 3-3, hello, with range, with medics, with stim. Such a lot of damage in this Marine army, that's incredible. And Protoss is keeping its Templar too far in the rear, and also the Arbiters, which aren't really all that good. Storm sort of connects again, but a lot of Goons are dying, and there are so many Storms in this Protoss army. They could be put to better use, but Purple Wave, what a monster are you, and Egbert, what a monster are you for doing such good work with a pure bio army. And you can see that where Protoss had the bigger army earlier, it's now Egbert with the damage, and mainly I think that's because these Templar are not really pulling their weight. They could be doing so much better, and the Arbiters in conjunction with the Protoss army would be better and all. But if you've got more Terran bases, you've also got more comsats. So Terran at this point basically has got an endless supply of scans, and oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, the probes are coming off to fight or to make their way across the ramp. The Reaver dies, last shot going off, pretty well done. But right now we've almost got 100 arming supply bio, and you are going to need a lot of good fighting units to deal with that. We've still got Arbiters, we've still got Storm, but yeah, that's... Oh, that was 3 almost full energy High Templars, and that's not how you do it. Terran really exploding off the scale. There are barracks everywhere in the middle of the map, and is approaching max at record speed. Could be building a couple of more depots, natural mining out. The Protoss natural is mined out already in tatters as well. Arbiter gets killed, Goon gets killed, and that is an impressive win by Egbert. Still waiting for one more depot. Where is it going to be built? Over here, and then the SCV is probably caught, and that's... Or it must finish up here and then move out. No, caught. Oh, too bad. But Egbert maxes us out and then rolling over the enemy. There is a cyber core, there are a couple of buildings. Protoss is trying to rebuild, but what can you do at this point? You've only got 12 army supply, and where is it? A couple of zealots, one goon, a couple of cannons. Not really going to work, is it? So, yeah, with this base falling, I think I'm going to call GG in favour of Egbert. Very well done, thank you for the game, and hope you are going to do well in the future. Same can be said, of course, for Purple Wave. Still a beautiful piece of coding, and a very unorthodox play to have to face such a lot of Marines with medics. And to all you other Terran coders out there, there is a lot of damage potential in Marine and medics, and a lot of upgrades and good play. So there you go. Last game of the day was sent by Crazio, and well, call me a sucker, but I like to see these two go at it. And the text accompanying it was a rather unusual game, and most of the time it's just is a big all-out slaughter fest with lots of tanks and vultures and mines and God knows basically the TVT. And the game is pretty long, so I am interested to see how it's going to be unusual. Iron going to do a lot of one base, and Crazio going to do the same. 2 Marines, not really going to build a bunker. And now with 2 versus 1 vulture, Marine snuffs it. That's good. Crazio with 3 vultures now on the defensive, pure defensive right now. With a Goliath is going to clean the base from these vultures. And I think I understand where Crazio's coming from with these Goliaths. Goliaths are pretty good versus what are these called? Vultures and Wraiths. But in the end, you leave the map to the enemy, which is going to mine it. What the hell are these SCVs doing? That's a good question. Natural being started by Iron, Crazio being a little bit earlier, and Crazio is now contained. So as an AI or as a human player, it's very hard to break a contain, even with the defender's advantage of the Terran, namely the siege tank. And we haven't seen an update from either Ironbot or Crazio in a long time, so perhaps they've run out of time or out of good ideas how to break the stalemate. And yeah, we're going to be stuck, in quotation marks, with these beautiful, long, drawn-out TVTs. Ironbot really trying to keep its distance from Crazio, and Crazio's got to be careful that it's not going to lose a tank for nothing. Oh, these vultures are so deadly. And now Crazio's out on the map, but it's surrounded from all angles, and there are vultures in the natural. 1 tank to try and kill them, and Wraith. Oh well, that's a lot of DPS. Some Goliaths are coming in, but a lot of workers are going to die, and that's very unfortunate, because that's also your main economy. And now 2 Wraiths, Goliath, a Vulture, and a couple of other units. But Crazio suffered a fair bit, and now there is a tank up in siege range of this turret. And the Wraiths have it. Oh well, that's just in time. And another tank will probably be caught. Oh, but these 2 Wraiths of Crazio's flee from 1 Wraith of Irons, even though they've got ground support by this Goliath. And now, if you forgive the expression, this game will become incredibly hard to cast, because there is action going on everywhere. Both of these players have got this weird distributed style of playing StarCraft Root War, and there are units here, there are units there is something happening in the middle, there's flying buildings, there is a Vulture incursion mining up the siege tank with 2 mines, and the mine hits, oh, 1 connects and the other one gets killed still. Crazio losing a couple of units here. This batch of Goliaths is doing okay, but Ironbot is running away with this game, bringing the floating buildings back to the area Crazio actually controls. I think signifies that Crazio is going to play the defensive game. Iron taking a 3rd. And still a Goliath and 2 Wraiths out there. And it's really hard to see how the micro is going to shape up. And how to compute the advantages of having 2 Wraiths attack or having a single tank being repaired by 4 SCVs. Now the turret doing okay, these SCVs now stuck seeking other targets, Iron being somehow pestered, but also wrapping the contain around this side to yeah, well, make this flank for Crazio very vulnerable. And Crazio can't get a 3rd at the moment because it's contained. And again we've got Vultures in the natural, but with the Goliaths coming up, eroding the mines, and the Vultures themselves eventually, it's going to be okay. Ironbot with 60 workers, Crazio with 40, army supply a little bit in favor of Iron, but Crazio can do better with the tanks and flying buildings. So you can see that while Iron does siege over here, now with the Wraith for some air control, air sight range of its own, you can see with the flying building, the tanks of Iron don't really have as much of a chance. Nice matrix, and Iron with a nice contain over here. Crazio now has to break out on 2 points, and there are Wraiths and Vultures all over the place. Iron with a 4th base. Crazio snuck out a 3rd. I like that, because I think that Crazio is defending a little bit better than Iron is attacking at the moment. You can see these supplies evening up, although Iron has got about 25 more workers. Crazio being on point with the repair and the home department. Could have a little bit more anti-air though, but could be forgiven. Iron with a nice contain, but it's largely Vultures, SCVs, turrets, and only the single tank. Crazio now up on the high ground, protecting its turf, with the tanks, with the Goliaths, but no SCVs. So you get all kinds of weird sub-battles being fought all over the place, and vultures running to and fro, killing turrets, killing SCVs, and it's very hard to keep track of the bigger picture, especially as this being a mirror matchup with two players which can play pretty well. It's very hard to see who's going to get the advantage. Now Iron in with the vultures in the tanks, Crazio reinforcing from behind, taking the high ground position, but Iron will soon be veering around the bottom and trying to get things done. Here you go. Oh no, that's Crazio's vulture. So this game is actually pretty crazy, and it's really hard to cast. Iron is going to push back though, because Crazio's tank core is rolling, and the flying buildings are out, but are going to find the tank area sooner or later. Now Crazio with the high ground, and Crazio with the army supply, although it's down in workers with about half. Now it's being harassed in the main base by a science vessel, God knows why, and Iron with 3 bases mining, 1, 2, 3 versus the 2 of Crazio. Crazio a little bit down, but Crazio's micro is just so much better, but hasn't really got enough scans because it's only got 3 bases, and then you will be down in scans and vulnerable to raids. Iron pushing back, taking the main portion of the map, the middle portion, while Crazio is setting up shop on the bottom end, and Iron is losing such a lot of supporting units that I doubt it's... Oh, this is a nice position for this tank on the high ground though. And if Iron does get sight over this valley, it can do pretty well. And that would really be one of the innovations of TVT, that these Terrans learn which high ground is valuable to keep or to take or to defend. I think that can really be an edge in this game. Now Iron is pushing Crazio back, Crazio with the Matrix, a lot of supporting units, but still this tank is pretty exposed, and there is not coming not really much in the way of reinforcements. Iron could be building more bases, I say, waste a little less vultures, or skip 1 tank and take another base. You are still in control of the map. Crazio is right on the low ground. If you were to set up shop over here with a couple of wraiths and tanks, and over here this ledge, you'd be in a very good position, and you'd get this leapfrog thing where you get all kinds of Verdun style battles, World War I, artillery barrage, and then rush up to the next high ground, where in World War I it would be another trench not to get shelled too much, but as you have no artillery in Brood War, it would be World War I style with high ground, and that is happening not enough. Now you can see this yin-yang thing going off, with Iron being successful over here, Crazio having to defend, and Crazio trying to sustain a push over here to push up the high ground. But Iron has got the high ground, and although it's quite accidental, it's very hard for Crazio to break that. And Crazio has not got the map control. It could try to expand over here. Large drops would be something that these bots could incorporate as well, because if you just drop a handful of vultures over here, well, I don't know, you can't really bring them over there. So drop a couple of units over there, kill these SCVs, do something like that. But this ground style TVT is really hard on the caster, and of course that should not be your prime concern. But also it's very hard to gain the advantage. It's becomes some kind of dice throwing exercise, what composition you need and how to push and what kind of floating buildings, and there is no inherent intelligence involved, and that would be would be aided if you were to incorporate things like high ground and like drops, bigger drops, because as far as drops are concerned, you could just, Iron at this point could just land some units over here, attack these buildings, but that's not happening at all. It's got this area secured, has got this area secured for a quarter of an hour, and one dropship would ferry over a couple of units and then camp the production of Crazio. That would really be a crushing blow. And now Crazio can somehow still defend with 34 workers, 50 army supplies equal. And oh, there we go. This may be the nail in the coffin for Crazio. Iron taking another base. natural for Crazio is out. The third is still there, but Crazio is not really concerned with territory or which bases to take. And Iron isn't either. It's just running out of money somewhere and rebuilding another base, but doesn't really think, well, I've got map control, what can I do with it? I've got map control, I can camp the production of the enemy. I've got map control, I can take another base. Just take this base while you've got your stuff in position over here. Just try to do something with that. Mine out the middle of the map, and you've got this positional advantage on the enemy. Crazio now, with the push from below, doing really well. Supporting units are there as well. Iron is really low on units for some reason. Its base over here is out, the base over there is out, and now got two bases versus the one of Crazio, and Crazio is fighting more efficiently. So Crazio for the time being doing okay with the tank front, with the air side range, and with the Goliaths in the rear for support, and a lot of tanks. So if we take stock now, Crazio is suffering a little bit here, but Iron's got 11 tanks, couple of raids, science vessel, medics, marine, couple of vultures. Crazio's skipped the vultures completely. Couple of Goliaths, 30 tanks, 31 tanks, 1 science vessel, and as long as Iron keeps committing to ground attacks, this tank composition of Crazio's is going to be very hard to beat. Crazio's problem though is that its third is going to run out, and then it will have to take another base, and this tank army is just sitting there. It could be pushing a lot harder or try to do something about this area over here, and that really should be dictating the moves of these bots. What are you going to do, not now, but in 5 minutes from now, in 10 minutes from now? What is your plan? Which bases can you take? What units are you going to produce? What do you see the enemy doing? How are you going to make all that work simultaneously? And of course that is very, very, very hard to do. But I think in these in this TVT gridlock, really. Oh, wow, look at all the tanks. The first tank corps is over here. There is no air cover, save for these two Goliaths. They are doing what they can. But these tanks are getting poked and picked at by these two wraiths. But these tanks are doing so much damage now. Crazio is also pushing from the rear, but it's really only trying to push from the bottom because it wants to reinforce the main army, and that would be also something. Crazio now taking command of the middle base. If Crazio could establish a command center over here, it would be golden, or just perhaps fly a command center. You don't need to build it because Crazio's all out of money. It's got a large army, Iron hasn't. But Iron's still mining from one base, and Crazio is going to have to fight hard for that. And that might really be also one of these things which could win games for these big Terrans, because if you got asked the question, what can they do more? They could take, oh, you could take too long distance mining. That of course would work, but that isn't really bringing the money as reliably as it could. Now Iron is setting up shop over here, but Crazio is with this strange tank push. A portion of it is coming back and might even catch these tanks over here off guard. And this small group of units is sort of caught. Crazio, where are the... oh, it's now long distance mining from here. Just fly over a single command center. You've got this game in the bag. And then try not to let these tanks join up with the main army. Try and protect it. Try to shift these units out of here. Include this in your zone of control. Then it's safe, and then you can attack or defend some other front. This science vessel by Iron is really crazy. It has been harassing these depots for all of this game, but it's not really working because you know why. So there you go, Crazio with the long distance mining. We do have some income, and this of course is the income for Iron, and this is the income for Crazio. There is still some income, it's not much, but it's still there. And Crazio now is attacking the main base. Iron is sort of defending it with a handful of Goliaths, but there are tanks and Goliaths out there, so that doesn't really work. This base is out, this base is still mining, and I think Crazio is going to win one for a change. Oh, that's he'll be pleased with that, and I presume that's why he recommended me the game. But Iron can't really do much anymore. But Crazio, really, my man, fly over a command center. You've got 3. or build another one. Just try and... Oh, there is so much repairing going on. That must be the repair. Build a command center, and you would be golden. And that's that zoning thinking of these bots in, well, have a control of this area. Can I do something with a high ground? Take a command center, shift the enemy out of it. That would be so nice to watch. So for this broadcast, which has been going on for way too long, I hope you enjoyed the games. I certainly did. We'll be back next week, and hopefully some of my brilliant ideas can be incorporated. And of course I know it's very much harder to incorporate them to actually say them, but oh well, you never know. I like the games, hope you did too. Hope to see you again next week. Goodbye!